Jonathan Trager for Stretty News TV, and I'm joined today by esteemed Spanish author, journalist and broadcaster Guillem Balague. First of all, Guillem, how are we doing today?
Yeah, right. I'm excited. Today is the big event, or the book launch stroke party. A lot of friends, a lot of people that I love, and a lot of people that have looked after me will be there. It's in Manchester, National Museum, and that day becomes like butterflies in your stomach the whole day. So I'm looking forward to getting to that.
Fantastic, and of course we're talking about, which predominantly we'll discuss today, the Cristiano Ronaldo biography that your most recent publication. Before we get on to Cristiano, I just wanted to ask a couple of quick questions regarding yourself and your background and your footballing history. Obviously, we know you're born in Barcelona. Fair to say that in your corazón, in your heart, you are a Barca fan?
No, it would be very unfair. I'm an Espanyol fan.
An Espanyol fan.
Which is I was going to say the other team in Barcelona, I guess you can say that.
Yes.
It's another team in Barcelona, certainly. And my father's an Espanyol fan, and I never felt sorry for being so, even though we are clearly in a minority.
Yeah.
But we are, as the logo of the club says recently, we're a very special minority.
Yeah.
So it's allows you to see things in a different light, because obviously Barcelona has become the centre of the world, football-wise.
Yeah.
And I've kind of chronicled some of that by, in the Pep Guardiola book, and doing the authorised biography of Messi, the one book on pictures of Barcelona, the history of Barcelona. It allows you to see it from a different point of view. I'm not an Espanyol fan first, and then a person second. I'm a person with curiosity. I understand what Barcelona is about, and I've learned a lot by looking closely at the club, just in terms of writing, in terms of the history of football, and even in terms of, this may sound a bit ridiculous, but I'm the director of football at Biography United, and I learned a lot from Barcelona. A lot of it can be applied at any level, certainly.
And just touched upon it there, the kind of perspective you have on it. Would it be fair to say, like you say, with the greatest of respect to Espanyol, the special minority, is it almost easier, your job as an impartial journalist reporting on football, to be an Espanyol fan? Because obviously if you were a Barca fan, people would constantly be accusing you of inherent bias.
I suppose you've certainly got a point. I don't believe in impartiality and in objectivity. I don't think it exists. From the moment you choose a word instead of another, you're not objective. But all you have to do is honest. And I declared my alliances to Espanyol from day one when I was in Sky. I remember on one occasion in a local derby, I was even wearing an Espanyol shirt and the very well-dressed Sky kind of look. But then, yes, it does give you a different perspective. I know in the case of Pep Guardiola book, Pep knew I was an Espanyol fan. And in fact, I remember in one conversation I was having with Xavi Hernandez. This is on the last year of Pep Guardiola Barcelona. Difficult to get interviews. It was that tension with Jose Mourinho and Real Madrid. And I was in the middle of a conversation with Xavi Hernandez, and the right-hand man of Pep Guardiola passed by Manel Estiarte, and he said, "Xavi, be careful. He's a friend of Jose Mourinho." I was like, I haven't got friends. I haven't got friends in football. They're just acquaintances. That's all it is. But it is very tribal, much more in England than it is in Spain. But at that point, the Barcelona-Real Madrid clash was huge. So that was kind of like a bomb being thrown out there.
Yeah.
Xavi reacted well, but yeah, going back to the original question, it's good when you can look at things from a different point of view that doesn't get really affected by the latest result of the team,
Absolutely, yeah. I was going to say, I mean, just moving on to Cristiano, aside from the fact, obviously, that he's a modern footballing great, in fact, he's, in the context of football and eternity, he's a footballing great. Aside from that fact, was there something particular about his narrative that inspired you to investigate him further? Sometimes
you're not the one choosing what you're writing about. So let's say with Pep, it was an agreement with Orion. We thought that there was a lot of enigma about Pep. With Messi as well, he's very well known, but not many people knew details of what he was about. But after doing that, you just want to explore somebody else who is at the elite and who reacts to things differently, but whose path has been very similar to Messi. So then the idea of Cristiano Ronaldo came on. Once you do that, once you take on that job, and writing, I truly enjoy writing, and the process of getting to before you write the first line, all that is a passion of mine. So then once you get into it, basically, there's a lot of things that not only you want to explore, it inspires you as a person, and it inspires you as a writer. He's got this compulsion to wanting more, to be better. Even maybe writers would recognize themselves in there. Once I've done Pep and Messi, it's like I could have stopped. That's it. I knew I had a book in me. That could have been A Season on the Brink in 2005. Then I wanted to do another one, and another one. So you eventually try to look for things that you identify with the character, and certainly with Cristiano and Messi, you can see that need to want more, to be the best. They may or may not be. They may consider it such, but to just want it, that's very inspiring.
And it's interesting you talk about the kind of desire, the relentless desire to be the best. With Cristiano, from your kind of extensive research, where did that derive from? Was there something you pinpointed that you can attribute it to?
I think you get born with it. There's a lot of discussion about nature and versus the developing and the learning, and I think I believe in the 10,000 hours idea, theory, that if you put that amount of time into something and you do it not just adding hours, but in a very detailed education with very good educators, then you're going to get to the top. I have no doubt about that. But you have to be born with certain things that allow you to get there. You have to be, if you are a footballer, you have to be fast, and that's nature. If that's nature, then you have to, if you have the facility like Cristiano has, certain type of muscles that come from his background and his family, that helps him also develop himself physically. All that is nature. But I think must be a gene somewhere that gives you that compulsion to get better. There must be something, because you see it everywhere. You see it in all those kind of people. And you may have the likes of Puyol, Raúl, I don't know, Iniesta, Xavi. All these people also get that urge to get better, but it gets to a point where it's like, okay, with them, with the Peps, with the Mourinhos, with the Messis, with the Cristianos, it's just unstoppable. Just want more and more and more and more.
So you would actually even distinguish between, for example, a Xavi and Iniesta, and you believe that trait is what ultimately propels them to the complete upper echelon? That there's world class, and then there is the best in the world. It's kind of...
There must be a difference. There must be a difference, because Xavi did maximize what he has, but didn't reach the level of a Messi or Ronaldo. What makes them different, quite clearly, is that extra thing, that special thing that means that they want to go where nobody else in the world has gone. And yes, I think you can differentiate them from others. Even themselves, even the Xavis and the Puyols will tell you, these guys are crazy, these guys are going, wherever they're going, I just cannot get there. So they are special.
I thought maybe there was an instance, maybe Cristiano, a famous footballer, refused him an autograph when he was younger, and that propelled him on, but there isn't anything like that particularly that you've identified as a source.
There is, Cristiano comes out from a very poor background. That's relatively important, not so much because he wants to get out of there and succeed to be rich. I don't think it's a motivation. But by being in a poor background, you've got a mother who was not present because she had to work. She was the father of the family because the father was alcoholic, and as Cristiano plays himself, he was drunk most of the time, so he wasn't there. He was there, but he wasn't there. So mom had to take over the whole family and work, and so she wasn't there either. That meant there was nobody stopping him developing whatever way he wanted. That means two things. That means that, so he wanted to be a footballer, and when you have parents that are not very domineering, you're allowed to do that. That's why he goes at 12 to Lisbon. Eventually, mom lets him go, and other type of parents will have stopped that. It's like, no, you're not going anywhere because I don't want to leave you on your own.
Yeah.
That certainly allows you to do that. And then it may be a little bit of when he is outside that world, realizes I don't want to go back to it. That means the poor background, that means Madeira. Once he's out of there, it's like, okay, the world is very big. I'm going to have to work really hard to get to the top.
Yeah.
And that certainly is a motivation.
And you touched upon it before with the kind of notion of impartiality and how you kind of don't believe in it, essentially. I wanted to ask quite a curious thing that I read about something you'd written in Messi's book regarding information that had been relayed to you regarding what Ronaldo refers to Messi as. I think motherfucker was the, pardon my French or Spanish or whatever we want to say in the interview. And Cristiano quite vehemently refuted this. I think he even went as far as threatening legal action. But I wanted to say, as a consequence of that, was it harder to, because obviously everyone, these are human beings and sometimes they can take offence and react emotionally. Was it harder to gain access as a consequence to certain subjects in Ronaldo's book?
It's given me the possibility to do the book that I wanted to do. The beginning of the Ronaldo book is the Facebook post that he did threaten me with legal action.
So that was the actual beginning of the
first page. Wow. So you open the book and that's the first thing you read.
And is that where your investigations commenced? Is that where?
No, because that was in the middle of it. I mean, 2 weeks before he came out with that post, we had agreed to do the book together. And the decision was made because the publishers generally want you to be as close as you can to the person. I had my own difficulties with that because Ronaldo has got an entourage that for a while, since 2012, they've been very, very careful of what's been written of them, to a point of directing things and curtailing the freedom of the writing. Yeah. So I had my difficulties with doing it with them. And of course, once that post came up, it was quite clearly that we weren't going to work together and it wasn't a good idea. So, and it's the best decision that it could have ever happened, because it's not the same to write a book where you have to, as many others, you have to just pass it on, and then I wouldn't be allowed to write to half of the things I'm writing about. And it's no controversy, it's just trying to delve into the character. So I'm using the time I've been with him through the years. I've presented events where he was involved, so we've been in private situations, interviews, etc. And then of course just working around talking to all the people that I've been able to talk to and who are not scared of talking about Cristiano, because that's the other thing that I found, especially in Portugal.
So therefore, did you still seek subjects, for example, family members and close friends when he was growing up? Did you still manage to gain access to them, and would you say that the kind of access you gained to them was the same as a result of maybe a slightly fractured relationship?
To be honest, that happens when I had done most of my research anyway. Right. So once that took place, I was close to start writing anyway. The thing that was discussed at that point, on those 2-3 weeks when that happened, was what was the approach? Do I have to write it? And then they have to look at it and then they decide if it goes or not. Yeah. And I wasn't very happy about that. Or do I do my own book, as all the books are? Even Messi is an authorized book, but the authorization came at the end. So I wrote it. Yeah. I said to them, I like to be as close as I can to all of you, talk to you, but it's my book. Yeah. It's not your book. It's not an official book. And they first said no. So I kept knocking the door, and it's like, I would like to, because not a lot of people know about what you are about and what your family done for you, whatever. Eventually it was like, okay, little by little, they started opening up to a point where they trust me enough to present the last 5 commercial events that he's been doing. So, and at the end of the book, they said, I tell you what, there's been no book where the search for the truth, being this is elusive concept, but has been so hard, and we're happy for you to use the word authorized.
Yeah.
So that was brilliant. That was a success in itself.
And they demanded 0 edits when it came back. Fantastic, fantastic. And do you believe, like you said, obviously it's very clear that you're almost content with how it's panned out with Cristiano, because like you say, it's giving you more license to write your book. Do you believe, you say it's a very candid assessment of your research on Cristiano and your dealings with him, do you feel it will almost mend, if there is a fractured relationship, could it mend it through him reading this?
I don't know. I mean, we've crossed paths a couple of times, and I don't see fractures anywhere. Not with him, but with the people that want to control his image and what he says. I'm pretty sure, it won't be so easy if we ever meet. To be honest, if it was my first book, I'll be worried, because it's like, it's not an official book.
Yeah.
Now. I am in a position where I don't need to go through officialdom, because as I'm saying, if you want to see the Ronaldo story told by Ronaldo, go and see the film.
Yeah.
If you want to see a story where I try to explain where he comes from, and not only him, but a lot of players that go through the same, and a lot of them go through the same, then have a look at the book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite curious, obviously, that you've written on both Messi and Ronaldo. I mean, it's not rocket science. They are the best 2 players in the world, obviously, so it's natural that you'd want to chronicle their lives. But from investigating extensively both men, and men as players and people off the pitch, what's, say, the key similarity and key difference that you recognise between them?
The trip is very similar. The journey that they had to take on was very similar. So, as a 12-year-old, one day, Messi said to his family, I want to win the Ballon d'Or. And Cristiano Ronaldo, as a 12-year-old, had a clear idea he was going to be the best. They both had to leave their families and their backgrounds very early on, 11, 12, and they both had to, struggle, especially Sundays where everybody's at home and they're on their own, and all the other players will be with their families and they're on their own in Lisbon or in Barcelona, and that defines you as a person.
Yeah.
They're very clear. They have both a very clear idea that the team wins because of them, which, by the way, is probably not wrong. So what you have to do is accept that and work to get so you can get the best out of them. So a team that works around them, coaches that understand what they require. They both cried when they lost, and that's not normal. When a 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old cries as if it was a little death when they lose, that's not normal. But that's that thing that they have inside that drives them on. And then, of course, the relationship to the rest of the world is completely different. How they project themselves to the world is as we know. Don't need to go into it, but opposite almost.
But what I mean, as people, what would be a key difference that you recognise is Ronaldo? Because it strikes me that when you see them, and I don't know if this is a PR stunt or a ploy, but when you see, for example, Cristiano interacting with ball boys and young boys, he's very affectionate. He's very, and the impression we get is that Cristiano is more personable, more loving, whereas Messi, I don't know if they've pinpointed clips where to highlight this point, and it's not necessarily true, but is that a PR image, or is this the real Cristiano? Is he more affectionate than a Messi? Is he more personable?
I've seen them both in private, and I see them both with young kids, and they both really at their best.
Right.
They know that these are people that admire them. They know the responsibility, and they become almost like little kids themselves. No, I wouldn't say that there's much difference in there. They're both affectionate in their own way. Quite clearly, Cristiano is Latin, so he needs to show all the time, wear his heart on his sleeve and show all the time his emotions. Leo is completely different. Leo is like he carries it all inside, and there were times, now he's more mature, but there were times, Pep Guardiola told me that, how wouldn't he talk to me if I leave him on the bench?
Yeah.
And wouldn't talk to me for 3-4 days. when he does the same with his mother, you know, and it's like, what's going on there? You know, you knock, 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 and all you hear is like a rock.
Yeah.
That's how he deals with things.
Yeah.
Different to Cristiano, who would just, you know, show very publicly his anger or whatever it is. But they're both passionate guys. One thing that I think helps Leo, and is on the same issue, and perhaps Cristiano should have more of, is control of emotion. So Leo has got the emotional volume very low, as we're saying, where Cristiano's got it very high. You know, one has been sent off a lot of the times, and Leo has been sent off not so often. Yeah. So that helps when you are dealing with the pressures and the intensity of a football game.
And from a purely footballing perspective now, and I'm sure it's something that you get asked 5 times a day, and especially because you're so close, having written books on both men, purely from a footballing perspective, can I push you for a definitive answer on who's the best?
For me, but we're talking now. I mean, we're not talking in 2008, we're not talking 2012, we're talking now. Mm-hmm. For me, Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the game.
Wow.
And Leo Messi is the greatest player in the history of the game.
Okay, I like this. So it's kind of avoiding the question in a way by giving an answer. But I understand the point.
For me, better player, Messi. Yeah. Better player, Messi. But we are talking about, you know, amongst the top 5 players in the world, both of them.
Yeah.
But Cristiano hasn't evolved as a player. Mm-hmm. Cristiano has become a goal scorer closer to goal, that's all. Yeah. So he hasn't evolved as a player, and he is 30, he's peaked already, I'm convinced of that, and I think everybody started seeing it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean anything, because he's still going to score a lot of goals, but he has peaked, which means that he at some point was going to develop into something else, into more of a midfielder or creative chances or whatever. His time is past, but he was never going to do that, because all his thing is goals. Yeah. And that has got a good thing, because he scores so many. It's got the other side of it. He's seen by a lot of Real Madrid fans as a mercenary of goals. So he comes and scores a lot of goals and then goes somewhere else and scores a lot of goals, as if he didn't care enough about the team or the club. And I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm saying that's how he's been perceived in Madrid sometimes. Well, Leo, you know, in the last few months, Cristiano's gone 20 meters closer to the goal, the opposite goal. Leo has gone 20 meters deeper, and they're scoring more or less the same amount of goals. Yeah. And Leo is also assisting now, and I'm sure a lot of people disagree, but that's what I think.
Well, it's phenomenal, like you say, the greatest goal scorer of all time, because he obviously, we know he started as a winger, so it's phenomenal that he can graduate up front and do that. But it's curious that you mentioned there in terms of, it's almost like Leo is eulogised maybe more as a team player than Cristiano, who plays for himself, maybe, in terms of what you think the Madrid fans perceive him to be. Mm-hmm. I read that the deal was nearly scuppered by the price tag when he did originally when he went to Real Madrid, and that potentially he could have ended up playing with Leo at Barca. A question I wanted to ask you was, could 2 absolute leviathans of the game have coexisted in one team?
No, I don't think so. And the story there is that when he went to Manchester United, Barcelona were in the equation, but decided they didn't have enough money for it. When he went to Real Madrid, the situation was so tense at some point that there was a call being made to Barcelona saying, do you want him? Yeah. But the real wish of Cristiano Ronaldo, this is Jorge Mendes making the call to Barcelona. Yeah. The real wish of Cristiano Ronaldo was to go to Real Madrid. So it was a moment where everything could have broken down, and then who knows then. But it was never really enough steps put in that direction, especially because the work to take Cristiano Ronaldo from Manchester United to Real Madrid took months and months and months. Yeah. And that was one moment where everything had been agreed, everything had been signed, everything was put in place. It was that second year when, after Sir Alex convinced him to stay an extra year. Yeah. At that point, there was a crisis at Real Madrid in terms of elections, and the president wanted to go back, Florentino Perez, and a lot of people in the Florentino Perez entourage were actually saying, 96 million euros, that's crazy. So the president at the time, Vicente Boluda, said, unless you stop that, I'm the president now, I'm going to stop the whole thing. And then, all this may have taken advantage, but that never happened.
So it was essentially a financial decision rather than a footballing decision, though, that they were making to not take him for the 96 million euros by Barcelona. No. Basically, so there's a moment where there's a breaking point moment where calls were made. That's one of the stories in the book that nobody's told it before. But those calls were made because the president was saying, unless you in the opposition. People close to Florentino Perez, stop saying that 96 million is absurd. Yeah. Unless you say that, you stop saying that, I'm not going to go, and I'm going to just go like that with the contracts. Yeah. That meant Real Madrid had to pay Cristiano 30 million euros compensation. But Vicente Boluda, the president at the time, was willing to do so. Yeah. So Florentino Perez said, no, calm down. No, let's... In the middle of all that, there was calls being made to Barcelona. And Barcelona was saying, well, we're there if there's if he's available, but that didn't really take place. He was never available because the contract was put in place. Right. In December of the year he left. Right. Which meant that Barcelona didn't have a chance. And then ultimately Cristiano, what we're led to believe is that he got his wish because, like you say, he wanted to play for Real Madrid. And I wanted to ask, with regards to Cristiano, and his move to Real Madrid, you touched upon it there. It's news that you broke. It's well known that you've broke some major headlining stories in the recent decade, particularly, unfortunately, with regards to my beloved Manchester United. Players are some of our superstars moving to Real Madrid. First question I was going to ask, are you ever going to break some good news for us as opposed to the other way? And second question... Mata to United, that was also a story we broke. True, that's true. And he's showing himself now, which is great. One question regarding journalistic... De Gea staying, yeah. But I think also De Gea going at one point was... Did you break that as well? Obviously it was in the works. I suppose it ended well. Di Maria leaving Manchester United. I'm telling you the good stories. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. From a journalistic perspective, I wanted to ask you, at what point are you comfortable to release some news? So there must be a point when you find out something. Is there I suppose, how to phrase this question? You'll find some news out, but are you comfortable to release it until you know documents are signed? But is there a fine balance? Because you want to release the news before the club or a mainstream outlet. What juncture do you feel comfortable? When I know for certain that is taking place, and you have to be careful with the wording, because if the contract has not been signed, then you cannot say he's gone, but you can say, whatever, it's close to it or whatever. Another thing is what people take from what you say. Yeah. Say Pedro to Manchester United, for instance. He agreed personal terms with Manchester United. Yeah. And that's all I said, because that's all I knew. Yeah. That was taken by a lot of people that Pedro is going to Manchester United. But subtleties is not something that, even though it's on 140 characters most of the time in Twitter, it's not something that people do. No. But as long as the wording is careful. But I've been let down in the past. I mean, logically, I hope nobody thinks that I make things up, because then I'm not in the business of making things up, and that I double and triple check. But sometimes, I remember one in particular, when Pep Guardiola moved to Bayern Munich. The story broke in Sky Italia, and I contacted all the people that helped me with the book, as many as I could, not all the people, as many as I could. And they all said, no, he's not going, because they were protecting Henkes, right, who was still at the club. And they had an agreement, a signed agreement with Pep Guardiola, they couldn't release any information on him moving. So I said that. I said, no, it seems like that's not the case. Now, the next thing was somebody from Bayern Munich said, mate, he is coming. Yeah. So that was, Tuesday, Wednesday I was on Sky doing a game, and I said to the producer, you have to help me here, I need to tell the story proper, because I said it wrongly, because I've been told the wrong things.
And then in the sky we said that, he's definitely going, blah, blah, blah. So sometimes, you're not the one who writes up the documents, you're not the one who signs the contract. You one that for whatever reason people trust, and at some point they give you the information, another point you get it off them, and then once you're sure that things are happening, you go and release it. That's how it works.
Yeah, and just moving back to the book specifically, I was going to ask, when you obviously did your research and you approached various subjects that were close to Cristiano, who was the subject that you found most helpful in terms of providing insights into Cristiano?
Not talking of one particular person, but at Manchester United, they were very, very helpful. Very helpful, because the people that's still there and have been part of the Ronaldo story, they feel that they touched something magic, something that will never ever happen in their lives. I was very taken aback by talking to Mick Clegg. For me, that's one of the stories of the book, because what happened there was just from day one, Cristiano Ronaldo, 18-year-old, he looks around and he sees that guy who's sitting in the gym, who's not talking to anybody, and goes to him and realizes who he is, and then he says, okay, looking into his eyes, he says, I'm Cristiano Ronaldo, you're going to help me to be the best player in the world.
Yeah.
And Mick Clegg was like, let's go. So for 4 years and a half, they experimented, they worked together, they developed a body and a mind.
Yeah.
He already had experience of it with his own sons in terms of maximizing their potential. But what happened after was, for me, was extraordinary, because of course Cristiano goes, and Mick Clegg doesn't find anybody else that he can use that body of work that he's put together for 4 years and a half. There's nobody. There's nobody. So what does he do? He leaves football. Just abandons football. So I find that extraordinary.
And then moving on to Cristiano and his, we'll sort of move on to the differences in how he's perceived by Mancunians and Madridistas, as I like to say. I always like to say he's revered by Mancunians, maybe not so much by Madridistas, but when he came to United, and obviously we all know about the paternalistic rapport Sir Alex and he shared with Sir Alex and what have you, was it a marriage made in heaven? Was there a love affair there?
I'm fascinated by that relationship, because why did Sir Alex Ferguson dedicate so much time and love, and why did he treat him different to everybody else? Was it because, as they both say, there was a father-son relationship going on there? Or was it because Sir Alex realized that this is an extraordinary player and that's the way to treat him?
Yeah.
I think for Sir Alex, everything is business in football. And of course, something may have developed there, that is a young kid that needs a father constantly because his own wasn't there.
Yeah.
And Sir Alex, who may come out with that paternalistic feeling if need be. So yeah, it was match made in heaven, in the sense that each one knew what they needed of each other.
Yes.
But like a father and a son, there were times where Sir Alex made him cry and really treat him in front of everybody, as hard as he did with everybody else. But what made him different, or the relationship different, is that Sir Alex would approach, Ronaldo like 10 minutes later and say, I had to say this because blah, 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 blah. So he understood what was going on.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating relationship.
So, I mean, it's something that we all know on the surface, like you said, the kind of PR, well, not PR line, but the general consensus is they had this fatherly, Sir Alex shared a fatherly relationship with him. But delving a bit deeper into it, we know back in the day that when he had Cantona, who was obviously another special number 7 that he brought to the club, that he would make certain allowances for Eric. There was famous stories about Eric turning up when the dress code was a black suit, he'd turn up in a yellow jumper and he would turn a blind eye to it. Was Cristiano afforded that same kind of luxury?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was Pep Guardiola who said to me, I'm going to love you all the same, to his players, but I'm going to treat you differently.
Yeah.
And that's what, Sir Alex and everybody else, Jose Mourinho, Pep, they all do the same. And even at the smallest team, there's one or two that are special and need special treatment. You cannot treat them exactly the same. You can love them the same, though. And I think Ferguson did exactly that with Cristiano, yeah.
And just touching upon the number 7 as is on the book there as well. He kind of he inherited it's been a rich heritage, shall we say, for the number 7 shirt at United, as I know you'll be well aware. Dating back to, Cantona, the catalyst for the 2 decades of success, and Brian Robson, who was Captain Marvel, and Beckham, who was one of the biggest football brands in the world, the first footballing brand in a sense, really. With regards to Cristiano and how he inherited that number, I just wanted to juxtapose him specifically with David Beckham. Whose footballing brand at the peak was the big, or is the biggest, or was the biggest in its ability to transcend football? Do you think Cristiano's footballing brand has surpassed that of David Beckham now, who for one point he was the pinnacle of being a footballing brand?
Yeah, I think if you put in a balance how often people say what a nice guy he is and what a great player he is, that will kind of tell you the idea where the brand comes from, if it's from football or from image. And David Beckham, everybody says, yeah, he was good, but what a great guy he is. With Ronaldo, what a great player he is. Now, I feel that both more or less might have picked at the same, but Beckham has got a much more endurance to it, because it's not just based on his performances, which is what Cristiano is, certainly. I don't know how he's going to deal with finishing as a player. It's the treadmill will continue, and he'll fall off it or stop, and then he will fall off it, and it won't be easy to deal with what's coming next, because it doesn't matter how much a brand you build. If it's a brand built on success and performance on the pitch, then it's got a out of date kind of limitation. Beckham, on the other hand, he was very, very clever in how he developed his image. So which one was at the highest point, higher than the other? Perhaps, I think more or less the same, wasn't it? I mean, at the time of Beckham creating his brand and peaking as a brand, football didn't have the universality that it has now. So in terms of numbers, perhaps Ronaldo, but yeah, I think they are revered for different reasons.
And the $1 million question, I suppose, the $1 billion question for United fans certainly is. We all know Cristiano is wonderfully cryptic when it comes to suggestions that he might return one day to Old Trafford. He's very he words things majestically in a sense to leave it open-ended. What's your real hunch on whether he will return one day?
I don't think it makes any sense whatsoever, and I know that Manchester United have got everything ready for, if they both decide let's go for it, everything is ready. Right. They can afford it, not a problem. But in my eyes, it doesn't make sense. They are completely parallel universes now. Cristiano, as you can see with Real Madrid, I think he scored only in 6 of the 15 games or so that he's played this season. But in one, he scored 4 or 5, and then another scored 2, and the numbers are okay. Yeah. But his influence on the game is diminishing. If you think about it as a striker, and he comes as a striker, it may be a good solution, because Manchester United need a striker. But you are not bringing just a striker. You bring in somebody who wants the team to play for him. Yeah. That clashes with Van Gaal's philosophy and what he's trying to build. You bring in somebody who has to fight with his own shadow. You bring in somebody that people think is the guy that, who's 24, 23 and gets the ball wide and then dribbles. Doesn't do that anymore. So it makes much more sense for him not to go back to Manchester as well. In terms of personal life, he struggled in Manchester. I don't know if he sits down and thinks about it, he probably may have forgotten, because he has idealized what Manchester United is and the fans and everything else, and dreams of going back. But does it make sense? I don't think it does. I think it makes more sense to go to PSG and challenge himself in a not so hard league and win more titles, and maybe push PSG to the next level if that's what he's doing next.
But from his perspective, like you say, he maybe in his own mind maybe dreams of a dream return, and obviously the scene is set for him. Like you say, United devoid of a real goal-scoring threat apart from Martial now that we have. He could come back and it could sort of play to his ego to return as he could be the saviour almost, and that might tend to his ego.
Clearly, that's what you think.
Yeah. Well,
I think it does make sense.
you don't think that? No. So your hunch is that it wouldn't happen?
I think, in my eyes, it doesn't make sense.
No. And with regards to, you say you struggled in Manchester, just with the obvious factors, the weather and things like that, is that what you struggled with, the different culture?
Yeah. I mean, he comes from Madeira, which life is beautiful, and in Lisbon, where it's always sunny, and there is sea, and there is, there's a different kind of life day to day, to a place where, he used to say at 10 o'clock in the morning, if it was dark, as it gets sometimes in the winter, he was like, who switched the lights off? That kind of thing. So he had to deal with that, and every day there was a comment on the weather, every day. So now he comes from Madrid. Paris makes sense from that point of view as well. So we'll see.
And regarding Messi, having spoken to Cristiano, does he get fed up of the constant contrast and compare that he, or does he understand it?
I'll tell you one thing. Go and have a look at the film, the Ronaldo film, because you'll see there's a lot of mentions on Messi.
Yeah.
Go and have a look at the Messi documentary. Don't think there's one single mention of Ronaldo in it.
Right.
So it's normal. It's normal because if it's somebody trying to catch up, there's always a bigger obsession than the one that is at the top, I think.
Yeah.
But it's also in their personalities, I think.
And just to wrap up on Cristiano, one reason, if you're at the elevator pitch, one reason why people should read the Ronaldo book.
As I said earlier, if you want to see Ronaldo by Ronaldo, get the DVD.
Yeah.
Because it'll show you a year of him, as he says, being natural and real and whatever. When there's a camera, you're never natural and real. But what he is a lot of what you see is what he is. He's honest in from that point of view. But I'm sure he wouldn't show himself like being really upset or telling somebody off or coming off of an interview or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a controlled image. But I'm sure it's wonderful to be allowed into his life. Not a problem. The book is completely different. It's an analysis of what does an elite player has to go through, what did he have to go through, what's his relationship with his mother, with his father, with his teammates, even with women. I mean, what has he been allowed to be? Because a lot of the time, when your personality is developed as a kid and as a teenager, but if you're not controlled, if you're not in a loving environment, or you feel on your own, you develop a lot of needs that I feel that he still has. So that's the personal side of it, and then the football side of it. It may be controversial to think that I don't think he's ever developed. He's just become physically a lesser player, having been at that peak that nobody perhaps ever has reached before. But he's a goal scorer. He's a great goal scorer, more than being considered one of the best ever players. But that in itself is a huge success, and of course fighting for that top with Leo Messi and doing it so consistently, it's unbelievable, extraordinary.
Guillem, really appreciate the time today. It's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you.
All right, my pleasure. Cheers.